following is a local resident producers program. Program content is the sole responsibility of the producer and does not necessarily reflect the views or policies of CATV2, Oshkosh Community Media Services, the City of Oshkosh, or Time Warner Cable.
Hi everybody, welcome to Eye on Oshkosh. Cheryl Hentz here. Dan is not with us tonight, so we will miss him, but I'm going to try and carry on anyway. Welcoming old friends back to the show, Joni Geiger and Cheryl Rosenthal from the Oshkosh Area Humane Society. We're going to talk about some things going on at the shelter and their life-saving mission and that kind of thing. And we have, in Dan's place tonight, we have a little Dalmatian, our little mascot for the evening. They know that I love Dalmatians, and we lost our two Dals in March to cancer, and so you guys are going to make me cry again here. Anyway, so this they brought this in for me. So he's gracing our set this evening, and thank you guys very, very much for that.
You're very welcome.
I will enjoy having that at the house. So, anyway, thanks for being here.
Sure, well,
we appreciate it very much. What kind of prompted this whole thing, and I know we want to talk about a lot of other things too tonight, and they're going to be with us for the hour, so we can cover all kinds of stuff. But what really prompted my wanting to have you guys on was a month or so ago, I got this thing in the mail, as I'm sure a lot of friends and supporters of the shelter and maybe some other folks did. It's called The Death of Life Saving. Mm-hmm. And it really is a very, I think, direct and, I don't want to use the word blunt, but it's a very direct, straightforward,
poignant
letter about, what's going on at the shelter.
We are, yeah.
And basically it says that because you're no longer euthanizing animals, people think that there aren't issues there, that everything is great. And
rosy.
I mean, you guys continue to do a great job, as you always have, but clearly, there are certain times of the year when cats especially are just overpopulating.
There's a false sense of security.
Yeah.
That, if animals, if they get to the shelter, we don't have to worry about them anymore because they're safe.
Yeah,
and
they're in the shelter.
The shelter's got them. They'll take care of them.
Yeah.
But
so let's talk about this and what prompted this letter to be written. Let's even go back a little bit for people who may not have seen you guys on in the past talking about your life-saving mission. What is life-saving? Let's start there.
She looks at me, I look at her.
I'll start.
I'll answer it.
Yeah, and actually.
And my mic just came off.
We got her?
Well, go
There it
ahead
is.
and answer
Here.
the question, and I'll...
Well, here we go, Cheryl. There we go.
Thank you.
You may have to just hold that.
I may, because this is a problem. All right.
Okay. Life-saving is basically what had happened back in May of 2009 is that our organization, all our staff, we made a commitment to our organization, to the animals that we serve and the community, that we just said, we made a pledge. We are not ever going to euthanize for space again. And that was huge. That was really, really big for us. And so obviously that meant that we had to really make a lot of changes internally. We had to do a lot of things differently, and we made the decision to put a call out for foster care homes so that we could expand the walls of the shelter, because we weren't going to stop taking animals in. We were going to continue to do that. And so we needed a place for them to go. And so we asked our community to step up and join us in the life-saving mission and be foster homes. And then as animals got adopted, then the foster homes so we could kind of just move the animals in and move them out as well. And so it is really a wonderful mission, but it's also very challenging. Because you have no control over the numbers. It's very, very difficult. And what has happened now is, just as Cheryl has said, is that I think that now that we're 2 years into it, and I think that people know that we have the life-saving mission, they're very happy about it, but there's kind of a false sense of security. So maybe you want to elaborate.
Well, and I think also that people think that we can just take everyone's animal, that it's, that we have just abundant resources that we can handle all of these animals, and we don't. And so there has to be a balance as to the animals coming in and the animals going out, and we really rely on the community. And it's really refreshing to be able to go to work and know that every adoptable animal that comes to our doors is going to have a chance. And I think that's what the community wants too. But they don't understand the volume of animals that we're seeing on a daily basis and the medical care that these animals require. And it's a struggle. I don't know if I should say this or not, but it's very easy to euthanize animals. I mean, there's too many, that's...
Not emotionally, we should make that point. It's not an emotionally easy thing.
It's harder, that's what I should have said, is it's harder to do life-saving because it's harder to do life-saving, but it's also more gratifying. Mm-hmm. Maybe at 4 o'clock we get in a late litter of kittens and we're scrambling. We've got to find a foster home. We got to do this. We got to do this. What can we do? Who can we bunch up together? What adoptions can we push through quicker to get animals out so we can get more in? So it's very challenging in that respect. And I don't think the community really understands that on a daily basis, Cheryl, we get in 8 to 10 cats on a daily basis.
Today is October 20th, and I just for the heck of it, I checked what we have gotten in since the 1st of October. And you have to remember that there's weekends in there as well that were not open to the public. We've gotten in 105 cats. So, and in comparison, I think we got in maybe 14 dogs.
Just during the month of October.
Just in the month of October.
Wow.
Yeah. So 105 cats. I mean, and the adoptions are not balancing that out. Is what's happening. Is we're doing it as fast as we can, but we need people to, obviously if they're looking to adopt, they need to come to the shelter. They really do. They really need to think shelter as an option for bringing an animal home. And sometimes I don't think that happens. So one of the reasons I think that the life-saving article was written, we were all kind of sitting around one day. Well, we don't sit around too often, but we were talking about this, and we were talking about the challenge that this is, and so on and so forth, and how frustrating sometimes it can be because we tell people to donate, obviously, and people have been generous to us.
Wonderful.
They've been wonderful. They really, truly have. They've been very, very generous. We ask people to foster care, and people have done that as well.
Right.
And then we ask people to adopt. And those three things are absolutely necessary for this to work. And if one of them stops, or one of them slows up, or one of them, we just kind of get in a hump like that, it just backs everything up.
Yeah.
And that's what has happened is our adoptions aren't as good as we would like, and part of that is the economy. Yeah. It's been tough for people, and obviously we're seeing more of an influx with animals because of the economy. So it's kind of it's a rocky slope that you're on. So the last thing we ever want to do is we don't want to stop life-saving, and we have no intention of doing that, but we are asking for help. We truly are, and that's one of the reasons, and we appreciate you giving us this opportunity to kind of share this with people.
Oh, sure. Well, you guys are no disrespect intended to any other guest, but you guys are some of my favorites because I used to serve on your board of directors.
Yep.
I did your newsletter for a lot of years. Pets, I love
Right.
pets.
It's a
They're my
cause that's very
passion.
close to your heart.
It is.
Yeah.
It's the one thing that, well, one of a few things
Right.
that
Right.
I donate a great deal of time
Right.
and money
Resources
to when I
to,
have
yeah.
it. And in-kind things
Sure.
and that kind
Sure.
of stuff. So it is something I'm very passionate about, and I could talk all night, but we have to limit it to an hour about it. So, I guess a couple of things. How do you counterattack then? Let's take the economy, for
Sure.
example.
Sure.
You're saying because of the economy, adoptions aren't as much, and also because of the economy, people can't afford to keep the pets they have,
Yeah.
and so they're surrendering them.
Sure. Sure.
Sadly, I'm
Sad.
sure it's
Very
not an
sad.
easy thing for them to do.
Very sad.
But they feel like they have no other choice. And maybe we could start there. Do they have another choice? Is there a way for someone, if they are having some economic difficulties, is there a way for them to
Yeah.
keep their pet?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking that, because absolutely. We have a pantry at the shelter that anybody is welcome. If you are in a situation where you just don't have the money to feed your pet, we're going to help you with that.
Right.
We're going to do everything we can so that you can keep that pet. And we take that one step further too. If you're having a behavioral issue, or if there's something going on in your household that you just aren't able to manage, you betcha. That's what we're there for. We want people to utilize us, because we don't necessarily want to take their cat or their dog or their rabbit or their guinea pig or any of those kinds of things. We want them to be able to keep it. And everybody has tough times, Cheryl. And I think it's heartbreaking. All of us here,
Right.
And I'm sure a lot of your viewers. I mean, the idea of having to give up a pet, which is for a lot of us a family member, is I couldn't imagine how difficult it must be for people. So absolutely, we want to help them, and we want to make that work for them.
What about, and not that we expect the Oshkosh Area Humane Society or any shelter or rescue operation for that matter to solve all the problems that someone may be having because of economy, but what if they're having some health issues with their pet, and they just can't afford, and you guys have done this a lot of years, you've seen it. Someone has
time and time again.
Someone has been, they've had their pet diagnosed with something and they can't afford it, and they surrender the pet, and they don't tell you about it necessarily. And that creates other problems.
Right.
But
you can tell she worked on the board, because
Yeah, she really knows what's going on.
well, and I talk to people and I read up on this stuff, and it drives me nuts when people aren't totally honest about why they're surrendering an animal. I mean, I almost didn't adopt one of my dogs one time because the folks said that she had a chewing problem. Well, the only thing that she was chewing was their kids' toys that they left on the floor
all
with
the
the dog
time. Yeah.
toys.
Yeah.
But she wasn't chewing up furniture. I did give her a chance because I worked from home, so I said, well, I'll give her a chance.
Sure.
She never chewed one single thing in my house like that, And I think I think sometimes people feel like they have to have a good enough reason in their mind
Sure.
to justify to you giving up an animal.
Sure.
And that makes it harder for you guys to adopt an animal out. Just be honest about why you're surrendering an animal.
Yeah.
Right.
If people do call, and if they have a medical issue that they're not able to financially deal with, we obviously can't. We're not in the business of doing that. But what we will encourage people to do, I mean, there are websites that people can apply to. There are grants out there that people can apply to. Now, not everybody's going to be accepted, and we have had individuals who have just said, I can't do this, and they don't have anywhere else to go, and so they'll have to surrender the pet to us, and then based on that decision, we'll either decide to go forward with medical or not. But people are in rough spots in this economy, and it's showing amongst the animals that are being surrendered. So we're seeing a tremendous influx of older pets. I've never seen anything like it in my life. I mean, we're talking senior pets. We're talking pets that people have had for 12, 13 years in their home, and they're giving them up, and it's heartbreaking. It's absolutely heartbreaking.
I'm going to give a little plug here. It's not really a plug because I certainly don't. I don't benefit from this at all. But you talk about the finances and things. There is a credit card out there, and it's called Care Credit, and not every vet takes it, but some do. And in fact, the emergency.
Oh,
Referral
sure.
center.
Yeah.
Yep, the emergency place up in Appleton, the Animal Referral Center, they accept it.
Right.
Which I wasn't aware of until I had to use them one evening, and I saw that they accept it. It's a credit card. I mean, pretty much anybody can get
Apply.
it, I think. And I mean, unless you've just got horrific credit, you're
Right.
probably not going to get it. But and there's no interest for like either 6 months or 12 months,
That's good to
depending
know.
on what the purchase is.
Right.
And so. I think it's a good thing. It helps people out.
Sure.
Right, something great for an emergency.
Yeah, so
Right.
carecredit.com I think is their website. But anyway, so that will maybe help somebody
Sure.
somewhere.
Right.
And so these senior animals that you're getting in, you said there's this huge influx, and those are oftentimes some of the harder animals to place too, because
Oh, yeah.
people want
Yeah.
puppies, they want younger dogs, they don't want to get an older dog.
But Cheryl, I think
necessarily.
our shelter has always excelled, and that's one of the things that I love about our shelter is we have always excelled in placing those older animals. I'm always amazed. We had earlier this year, we had a was she 19 or 20?
20 she
Snickers.
was.
We had a
She was
20-year-old
20 years
cat
old.
brought into the shelter, and boy, what a
Surrendered.
feisty little girl. And she came in with another cat named Tom, and we put her up front. We put her in one of the galleries, and she wasn't doing really well, but she was holding her own with the other cats. And lo and behold, we featured her as Pet of the Week, and somebody saw her and said, "We can't live without her. We want her.
Yeah.
We want her." And it wasn't a pity adoption, and she's doing wonderful in her new home.
She weighs all of 4.5 pounds, and
Yeah.
she's
Wow.
in charge.
And we see this with older dogs. We just recently had a couple come in. They were looking for a yellow lab. The husband wanted a yellow lab. They had adopted a beagle from us, and the husband came in and he said, "No dog deserves this. No 8-year-old dog deserves to be in a shelter." And he said, "I want a lab, and here's my lab."
Yeah.
And it's so there really is a place for everybody. There is somebody for everybody.
Yeah.
If we can just have enough time to get there, to adopt out these older animals.
I think it's a tribute to our community as well. I think we're very blessed to have that kind of community. So it's a great marriage as far as, just because you're old doesn't mean you shouldn't be put up for adoption. And people are obviously, there's people out there that recognize that and say, I'll value for whatever time you have.
Yeah.
So I think that's
Well,
good.
I happen to know someone who works in, he and his wife both work in law enforcement in a neighboring county, and they always go to shelters or
Yeah.
rescue groups for their dogs. And he actually prefers getting a dog that, as he called it, an underdog.
Yeah. Yeah.
He looked for specifically a dog that had some kind of a problem, if you will.
Right.
Yeah.
The dog that they ended up getting, I think, had, she wasn't blind in one eye, but she did have a vision type problem. But he didn't care.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And I think that's a stereotype that's attached to shelter animals also, is that animals at the shelter have something wrong with them. And especially now with this economy, we're seeing a lot of wonderful pets that are being given up for financial reasons that they're ready-made. Sure, they're going to have to bond to you, and they're going to have to learn what the rules are of your home, but for the most part, they're house trained. They've got, their basics. So there's really some wonderful pets at your local shelter. If
And they
people would
adapt
just-
so
yes.
quickly
Yeah.
to new situations.
I think they almost know, don't
Yeah.
you? I mean,
Yeah.
there's almost
I think
sometimes
they're
a
so
sixth
grateful
sense.
to
I
be-
think
to
there's
be
just
rescued.
something about, like, and I know that's probably fanciful to think like that, but, you always wonder about, I got rescued,
Yeah, yeah. So let's talk some more about life saving and what makes it work. What kinds of things do you said you need help from the community? So Oshkosh and surrounding area, this is your chance to step up and help. What do you need people to do?
Well, I can tell you, we talked about I call
The
them
big
the big three. I call them the big three because it's got to be donate. We can't do it without the money. You always hate to ask for money, but the truth of the matter is you've got to have it. You cannot do the work without
Well,
it.
and if you have, there are a lot of people, I'm one of those people, I can't adopt anymore. I don't have any room to foster. So I can donate.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be $100. It doesn't have to be $500. It can be whatever you can spare. Donate in-kind things.
We have programs where you can give $25 a month. You can make a
Yep,
pledge.
our
for
Humane
those.
Hero, you
Yeah.
do $25 a month. And what that Humane Hero does for us is that's income. Let's say that, if all three of us became Humane Heroes, that's $75 a month that the shelter can rely on as income. And so if 10 people did that, then it would be $250
Right.
that the shelter could rely on every month. And that's sometimes what happens at the shelter is we get deluged with animals or expenses one particular month, and the cash flow is not always there. And so by having that consistency of our Humane Heroes out there, that helps us maintain our budget.
We're Humane Heroes
Yes,
in our
you
household.
are.
So,
Yes, you are. Thank you.
And I can tell you it's perfectly painless. and they pull the money right from your bank account, and you
We
never
just snatch it right away from
you
you.
never even see it. You don't even miss it. So, but even so much as I know, once upon a time, and I haven't been to the shelter in a little while now, but I know once upon a time you had a big dumpster set up where people
Sure.
could throw
Throw
aluminum
their
cans in.
Yep.
Do you still have that there?
You bet.
Okay.
Thank you
So
for mentioning that.
take
as well.
cans over there and
Take cans
throw
over
'em
there.
in.
Yeah, because it's one of those things that, and then of course we have our grocery receipts.
Right.
Which would you mention those, Cheryl?
The grocery receipts from Festival Foods, they have to be turned in quarterly.
Okay.
So January, February, March, we have to have them by the end of March or the very first week in April to turn those in, because they have to be turned in quarterly.
So people just give you their receipts?
Yep. They don't have to
Yeah.
spend
Thank you
anything.
for letting me know that, because I have some.
Great.
There you go.
I just threw some out, but I
okay.
do have
And
a
we
couple
get-
still.
we get
So
1%.
1%.
Okay.
Quick Trip has a program. If you charge your gas, you can name us as your charity of choice, and a certain percentage of that those pennies that you save on your gas comes to us. So that's another way to save. We have a young lady who has been doing a program for us called Pennies for Puppies, and in her family, every day, any loose change goes into a bucket for Pennies for Puppies. And every so many months, Gracie comes in with her Pennies for Puppies. And it may not sound like a lot of money, but it helps. If everyone would do just a little bit, we wouldn't have the financial
Right,
crunches
right.
that we see.
And I think you also talked about the fact that the medical that we provide. I mean, every animal has an exam and a vaccination, and they either are feline leukemia tested and heartworm tested, and I mean that's every single animal that comes through our door. So there's a great just on maintenance alone. But then if you have somebody that comes in that maybe their teeth need to be cleaned, or they need to be spayed, neutered, whatever the case may be, those are all additional things that the shelter provides, and so it can really add up. And these are things that we obviously have to address, but again, it costs money. Our veterinarian community is very generous to us as far as they do give us some wonderful discounts, and they help us out as much as they can. But they're a business as well.
Sure.
So so understandably so. So but when you're dealing with 2,500 animals, and of those 2,500 animals, every single one needs some type of medical care.
Right.
It gets very costly.
the grocery store receipts again are from Festival, and where else?
Just Festival.
Oh, just Festival. Okay. All right.
Now, Festival Foods also has Paw Away Hunger, which is another program. where when you're grocery shopping, you can decide to buy a $5, $10, or $15 bag of groceries for the shelter. Rather than buying the actual groceries, what you do is that $5, $10, $15 goes into our bank account, so that when we run low on a particular item, we can we can use our bank and get those items.
From
For
pick and
example,
save. In other words, they put the money aside for us, so
Oh,
we
excuse
can.
me.
So if we need cat food, or if we need dog food, or we need
or we need bleach.
or we need bleach,
Bleach.
which we always need.
Bleach, it's 99 cents. You can always bring us bleach. We go through bleach like crazy.
Yeah. So that's very, very nice, and you can do that right while you're shopping. So
Yeah.
that it's very convenient for people, and it's a wonderful program for us, because there's just numerous times, because it's ebb and flow. You never like you plan as best you can, but sometimes you use more of something than you had anticipated. So because you have more animals. So so donate is extraordinarily important.
Right. And there's a lot of different ways that you can donate. I mean, you can donate in kind, you can donate money, and you can do it in a lot of different ways.
Well, and the other thing too is, we need to look at the big picture as well. And people, we have a future here in our community, and this is kind of an aside, but people need to think endowments. They need to think about, the future of the shelter. They may want to think about including us in their will through a bequest.
And here again, it doesn't have to be a lot.
No, 1%.
1%. If that would
1%.
be wonderful. And I think you have to look at it as I can donate now, but who's going to donate for me when I'm gone?
Mm-hmm.
So I know that my husband and I have decided that what little we have, we would like to share 1% or more with the Humane Society.
Sure.
And a lot of people don't, and if you don't plan ahead for that, your wishes won't be known.
Right.
And so it really is important for people to think about making those plans, or something even like savings bonds.
Mm-hmm.
I have some savings bonds that came due, and if I don't want to pay the interest on those, I can just hang on to them, and then if I die, and they all
And
go,
you will.
and I will, especially with this cold. Those bonds, those savings bonds, can go to the shelter, and they get all of my bond. Let's say that I have a $25 savings bond that's now worth $123. They get all of it tax-free, because they're a nonprofit organization.
Right.
So that's a way for me to avoid having to pay taxes on those savings bonds.
And if anybody's interested in those things, they can obviously contact
So those
me.
are there's a lot of different things that, if people want to give and they want to learn more about it, they can visit our website, or they can contact Joni directly, and we'll help them, find out how they can best help us.
The next step, obviously, is foster care. We need foster parents. We have to have foster homes. We have not stopped taking in animals. We continue to do that. And I mean, even just tonight, honestly, Cheryl, I mean, we were walking out, and I walked in the back there, and we just have, I mean, there's cats,
In the hallway.
waiting in the hallway to get checked in. There's people surrendering in the room. They've got 2 dogs in the exam room that just came in from another shelter. It's just, it's nonstop. We're not complaining, because that's what we do. It's what we're there for, and thank God we are. But it just never stops. It's a continuous flow. So in order to accommodate that, and again, I feel so strongly about not stockpiling in the shelter. We shouldn't be like piling animals up in the hallways, waiting for homes and those kinds of things. And so we need people to step up and say, you know what, I can't. I want to help the shelter. I've got a spare bedroom. I can help out. I could take a litter of kittens for a while.
Right.
We supply everything. We we give the litter, the food, all,
And I think we have to, be honest and say the majority of our foster care is for kittens and for cats.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
We don't see the problem with dogs like we do with cats. We don't have that many, an overabundance of dogs coming into the shelter.
Well, and people need to understand that cats there's four
There-
times as many cats as there are
Yeah.
dogs. A lot of people don't spay and neuter. Cats breed faster.
Yep.
You
The breeding season is getting longer and longer.
It truly is. We are, and I've said this before, we're in an epidemic for cats. We have a problem. The nation has a problem. There are far too many cats. It's estimated that there's 70 million cats, roaming, free
Stray
roaming.
cats.
And you're saying 70, not 17.
I'm
70.
saying
70 million cats
Cats free
roaming around.
Yeah, free roaming. I mean, that's incredible. And those are not altered cats.
Yeah.
So it's just the numbers, and it really comes down to spaying and neutering. It truly does. And again, when you're faced with these sheer volumes of animals, I mean, that's where we ask our community, what do you want us to do? Do you want us to keep these and
Right. Well, and that's why we did a poll on our Facebook page. We did a poll, and I'm sorry, I don't recall how many people responded, but out of all the people that did respond, only one person said to kill them. Only one. And they came up with a lot of great ideas. A lot of the ideas, things that we're already doing outreach programs, taking cats and kittens out into the community, going to area businesses and showcasing our kittens, having events at the shelter, again, showcasing the cats and having some fun with it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's kind of like that old saying, if you get lemons, you make lemonade.
Yep.
Well, you have kittens, you have a party. And you invite everybody to come, and we had our Cattoberfest, and it was very successful. And if you make it fun for the community, and that's our goal, is we just want to find good homes for these animals.
Sure. I want to go back because Cheryl, you were talking about, you both had mentioned leaving, something in their will to the shelter.
Sure.
Everybody should have a will, whether it's not just for wealthy people.
No.
I mean, we all have something.
You all have something.
Exactly. Yeah. And if, everybody has a will, it's just you either direct where you want things to go and to whom you want them to go to, or the state directs it for you.
Yeah.
So
whether you have family or not.
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't think people want things going to the state.
Yeah.
I don't think so either.
So but if you guys don't have a will, you probably should get one. But you can also leave something to the animal shelter, even a small amount, as a beneficiary in an insurance policy, can't you?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And everybody, for the most part,
Has
more
insurance.
people probably have some kind of life insurance than they do a
insurance,
will.
Right. Which is
so-
true. That's
So
very
there
true.
is
So-
an avenue to leave
And here again,
even a little something to the
1%.
shelter. Yeah,
1%. It all adds up.
yeah. And the other thing I wanted to mention is, you guys said that you provide everything, the food and supplies,
yep.
litter, whatever. What about medical care? If a cat or a kitten that someone's fostering should need medical care, even though their own pet you're not going to be able to necessarily help
right.
with,
If
this
it's
is one that is yours that they're just fostering for you.
Right. They contact the foster coordinator and say, my kittens have upper respiratory, or I have one kitten out of my litter that has severe diarrhea. We make the vet appointment, or we tell them which vet to call and try to get the animal into, and we take care of that cost.
Okay.
So we take care of all the medical. What we need people to do is provide the space, the tender, loving care, and love them. Love them until we can find them a home.
And there's one other point that I want to make. If you're sitting there thinking, well, because I think a lot of us know that the city has certain ordinances. You can't have more than 5 dogs or cats, and it can only be 3 dogs total, and then you could have 2 cats,
Yes.
or you could have 2 dogs and 3 cats, or
Right.
whatever.
Yep.
But you can't have more than 3 dogs. That much I know. However, that's just if they're your own. And I
Right.
didn't know this until 1 or 2 times ago when you guys were on the
Right.
show. And I was very surprised by that. And I think that that's something that maybe a lot of people don't know. Animals that are being fostered
They're not
don't
yours.
count toward that.
Right.
So you don't own them. So you could have 3 dogs and
Right.
a couple cats of your own and foster something.
And you know, foster care is also a great way for a family or an individual. I've never had a cat. I don't know if I ever want to have a cat, but I'd like to, you know, have that experience. That's a great way. Or my children have been bugging me to get a pet. I don't want a pet long term. This is a great experience and you're giving back to the community by helping these animals and teaching your children responsibility. And is it hard to give a foster animal back sometimes? Yeah, it is. But if you adopt all of the ones that you foster, then you have to stop fostering. So it's a great opportunity for people to experience something that maybe they normally wouldn't be able
Plus,
to.
when we adopt these animals out, I mean, there's a benefit to say, this little guy was in foster home and he was with kids and he did really well and he lived with a dog and he did this and you know, so it benefits us as far as like even in placement, you know, because we can make a better match because of it. So
Sure.
so it's a win-win all the way around for everyone.
Sure.
So
What's the third component? We talked about donations and foster care, and what's the third one?
adopt.
Adopt.
You just, you know, the truth of the matter is that we have to. Cheryl says it time and time again. What's the point of, you know,
Saving them.
if nobody comes to adopt them? You know, and it's absolutely true. So in the case of cats, we have we've waived the fee for adoption for cats. There is no fee to
Really?
adopt a cat. Yep. And so you can come in and you can get 5 cats. You're going to pay 0. So because 5's the
Provided you
limit.
don't have 2 dogs.
Yeah, as
Provided
long
you
as I
don't
don't
have
have
2
dogs
dogs.
or
Yeah,
other cats
right,
at home
yeah,
right
yeah.
now, right?
So we just, you know, because what it really came down to, Cheryl, because it's not about the money for us. I mean, we're a charitable organization. We're a nonprofit. You know, we're not supposed to make money. You know, that's not our purpose. Our purpose is to find these guys homes. And so we made the decision. We went out on a limb, and you know, I mean, that's a tough one because you
Right.
know
and
you're
we've only done it. This is our first summer.
right.
That we've done
And
this.
so we just said, you know what, we're going to waive the fee. There's not going to. So, and honestly, I tell Cheryl this all the time. I use that terminology. What a bang for your buck. I mean, you're talking spayed, neutered, feline leukemia tested, distemper vaccination, worming.
Well socialized, litter box trained.
I mean, you know, it doesn't get any better than that. And so, you know, but we just made the decision that we had to do something because the alternative just wasn't an alternative.
Right. And when we first started this, we did get some criticism, you know. Oh, you can't be giving animals away for free. And it's like, well, we're not just, you know, somebody walks in the door and we go, here, have a cat.
You're still screening
We're still
applicants.
screening, we're
Yeah,
still
yeah.
doing applications, we're still making matches. You know, if you have a 20-year-old cat and you want to come in and get a kitten, we're gonna have a rapport with you. We're gonna talk about, you know, what's really best for your household, what works, and give you the benefit of our expertise and make a good match. But the money part of it, you know, there's a lot of people that they still,
Yeah.
at the time of
They
the
still-
adoption,
They still want to
They-
give something.
they give something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, they get it.
And that's, we so appreciate that, but it's not necessary either. I mean, that's not the whole point of it,
Right.
you know. So, yeah. So there are some people who are very generous, you know, when they adopt from us. But we just felt that we needed to do something, you know, particularly in cats, because we talked about it. Dogs, we don't have these kinds of number problems with dogs.
Yeah.
Our dog population really is, it's amazing. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. Our adoption rate for dogs is phenomenal.
There does seem to be a different sort of mentality.
You got it.
Yep.
You know, when you think about dogs in comparison to cats, I've pretty much been a dog person all my life. Well, not pretty much. I have been a dog person all my life. I've had a cat a couple of different times. I don't hate cats. I don't dislike cats. I just prefer dogs. I'm a dog person, and I think you're either a dog person or you're a cat person. And then there's some people who are both.
And there's crazy people like us that if it has 4 legs and a tail.
But you know, there is a mindset out there, I think, that dogs seem to rank up higher
It's a value.
on this. Yeah, they place a higher value on dogs.
Dogs have-
Why do you think that is?
Dogs have more of a the same social structure as we do.
Okay.
Dogs are more
That makes
social.
sense.
Immediately. I mean, you go to somebody's house and they have a dog. The dog comes and greets you. Hi, are you here to pet me? You go to somebody's house and they have a cat. The cat takes one look at you and goes, get out of my territory.
Although I have
You know.
seen a few.
Yeah. Well, if you come to my house,
that are very much
mine
like
are
a
very
dog.
friendly. They will come forward. But there again, there's that stereotype that cats are aloof. You can't train a cat. Cats, I don't know. There's just so many things about cats that people don't understand. They're
Well, and
misunderstood.
I think
They're compared to dogs all the time. A dog is not a cat, and a cat is not a dog. It's a whole. It would be kind of like comparing a dog to a lizard. They're just totally different. Their needs are different. But cats are trainable, and they are very social, but they're just different. And so we're trying to help people see that cats have value, and we have to put a value on them.
I think too, because cats live out of doors, and they do survive. Sometimes they don't survive well. It's a very, very tough life for cats out of doors, but they can survive. People,
We don't want that though.
no,
No,
we
absolutely
want them
not.
living
We want them
indoors.
No, but I mean, free roaming cats.
Yeah.
But I mean, you don't see free roaming dogs.
No.
I mean, it's very rare. I mean, you see
Yeah.
more in the southern states. You'll see packs of dogs, you know, that will be wild and run. But I mean, we don't. I mean, we wouldn't even if people saw a pack of dogs, they would be like, "Wow, we got to get those guys."
Yeah.
You know. But they
Exactly,
see
yeah.
cats, and it's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
Oh, they can do fine out there. They don't. You know, life outdoors for a
is
cat is
2 years.
pretty horrific.
Yeah.
Pretty horrific.
One, especially in the winter.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
especially in
It's
the winter.
just it's heartbreaking. I mean,
Yeah.
the stuff, you know, and I often think that too. If people were to see some of the things that happen to animals that live out of doors, and that includes dogs that live outside as well, I think they would think twice about, you know, how they would feel about that, you know,
Yeah.
because it's pretty tough out
And we
there.
see that with, cats, people that allow their cats to go outside. You know, if your dog was missing, how long is your dog missing before you go and look for it? We have people that call the shelter and they say, well, my cat, has been gone 6 days. Usually he's only gone 5, and now he hasn't come back, so now we want to file a lost report.
See, things like that drive me crazy, and I'm sure you see it much more than I hear about it.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Right.
I can only
But
imagine.
it's a matter of getting people to change their perspective or their perception. It's difficult
Cats
to change.
are
and
are
because
not
there's so
valued.
many of them.
Yeah.
There's so many of them. Well, if my cat runs away, I can just get another one.
And again, spaying and neutering. It's such an easy concept. We hear about it all the time. And, you also hear all the excuses all the time about why people don't do it. Oh, it's going to make them less of a male dog or, whatever. I mean, and you usually hear that argument from men.
You do.
But
there's no question about it.
I'm
and
sure that
and
there's some
there
women
are a
who
lot
feel
of
that way.
people that feel that way.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it to myself, so why would I do it to my dog?
It's healthier for the animal. You're going to have less behavioral issues.
That's right.
You know?
Testosterone hormones just run rampant in animals, and they are animals, and people have to understand that they are not inhibited. Their testosterone, their hormones are going to drive them to certain behavior.
Right.
They
And
can't help it.
Yeah.
And I think to some extent, I've seen dogs that come into the shelter, and cats for that matter too, that I think they're actually relieved. It's like, now I can concentrate on the important things like eating and playing. I don't have this constant drive because of the testosterone saying, I have to mate, have to find a mate, have to find a mate, I have to do this. And you remove that, and it just makes them all the better for it. And
Well, and you said yourself too. There's a lot less cancer because of these
Yeah.
things, and I mean it is healthier. I mean it's just it's hard to understand
Right.
why people
well,
don't do it.
and then, my favorite is, well, my cat never goes outside. All it takes is once.
Yeah.
Your cat's in heat and she
Yeah.
scoots outside, you're
Yeah.
going to be having kittens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, So it really is important for people to spay and neuter, and that's something else that we try to help people with. We've connected now with Shelter from the Storm in Madison, where for a reduced fee, people can sign up their cats and dogs to have them spayed and neutered, and it includes a rabies vaccination and a distemper, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And we have a transport that goes down to Madison once a month, and it's something very simple for people to do.
They can register at our shelter, and they get it at a reduced cost. And then, of course, then they pick up the animal the following. They pick up the animal the following day. So, so it does work for some people if cost is an issue for them. I mean, that really is it's a no-frill clinic, but you know, it works. And so we just feel like we have to do something to try to, you know, slow the tide of the sheer volume.
Sure.
Yeah.
There's some other things that we want to touch on tonight. Is there anything else on the life-saving mission and the death of life-saving, and hopefully it won't ever come to that?
Hopefully it'll never come to that.
Is there anything else on that particular life-saving mission topic that we should cover?
I think one thing that I would just like to let our viewers know that we are very grateful for the people in our community that have embraced life-saving from the very beginning. And we hope that they'll continue to support the life-saving mission and inform their friends and family that this is something really important. Animals in our community have no control over their circumstances, and they rely on us, the Humane Society, and the Humane Society relies on the community to care for them. And we just want to say thank you for all your support, and together we're going to make this work, and we're going to keep going.
All right, excellent. Well, let's talk about Bernice. This is a cat that has gotten a fair amount of attention recently. Tell us about Bernice. What's Bernice's story?
It was late in the day, and one of our staff was called out to, I think it was a staff person, was called out to pick up an animal that was found. The resident found it in their backyard, and they thought the animal was dying. And they, of course, went and picked up the animal, and they brought it back to the shelter. And I happened to walk in the back, and I said, we eat at the shelter. You know, we've got microwaves and stuff, and we have a couple times that we burned popcorn in the microwave. And I went in the back hall, and I said, "Hey, what are you guys burning back here?" And I was just joking. And one of the staff people said, "We think it's this cat we just picked up." And I walked into the exam room, and I looked in the carrier, and I saw her face. And immediately flashed in my mind was a cat named Scarlet, and I believe it was New York City.
Right.
This cat was rescuing her kittens from a burning building, and a fireman saved the rest of her kittens and saved Scarlet. And this cat's face looked exactly like Scarlet. And I said, this cat has to go to the vet right now. And it was like 5:45, and we were headed over to Animal Hospital of Oshkosh to pick up some of our other animals. And I said, somebody called, talked to Dr. Diane, made the arrangements, and they whisked her over there, and they took her out of the carrier and examined her, and could see that she had literally been lit on fire.
Someone intentionally did this to this cat.
We don't know that.
Well, we assume so, because we did try to backtrack, and we did call the fire department. We wanted to know if there was any recent fires, you know, in the area, that type of thing, because the burns were so recent. And so we were, you know, because, oh my God, you just can't imagine that someone would intentionally do that.
Yeah.
So thinking that there was a brush fire, or there was something going on, that somehow this cat accidentally got caught into that. There was nothing.
Yeah.
And as this progressed, and as they did more with Bernice, you know, they were able to recognize that obviously there was an accelerant on certain parts of her body, and that's where she burned. And so, so without any proof, that there is, most of the veterinarians agree that it was an intentional act.
Yeah.
Right.
How's she doing now?
Great.
Oh God,
Great.
she looks so beautiful.
She is fantastic. She had
She is
skin
a
grafts.
fighter.
She's an absolutely amazing cat. I mean, you know, Cheryl and I have been in this business a long time, and you see many animals that come in various degrees of pain and just needing lots and lots of help. And sometimes they give up.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just too much for them, and their spirit just quits.
Right.
Not with Bernice.
And that's what Animal Hospital saw, and I think it's a real testament of their skills there. I know that they've been in touch with different clinics throughout the United States talking about, has anybody had a case like this, and what did you do, and is that animal still living, and
She's a fighter.
She's the only one. And so it's been a great learning experience from a medical standpoint, but wow, people from all over the world check in every morning and say, "Good morning, Miss B, how are you?" And sending her things, and just her spirit has really rallied a lot of people around the world, and it's really a great thing, and it's great to see.
Yeah.
What I'd like to see is some of the animals that don't have those sensational stories.
They still have a story, though.
Yeah, to have the people rally for them too. And I look at it as Bernice is rallying on her own, and she's being taken care of. Let's rally for Bernice's friends, because I think that's, as a cat, I think that's what she would want. You know, hopefully.
Yeah.
So, but what a story, and what a
Incredible.
cat.
Yeah. Well, and, you know, that makes me think, too, about, you talk about these unexpected things that come up. There was an unexpected medical expense that you guys didn't plan on. That's why it was unexpected. And I'm sure it hasn't been cheap either.
Right.
Even though our local vets do try and
Right.
you know, give discounted prices and things like that, but it still isn't cheap.
Right.
And so when things like that happen, it dings your budget for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and we have been very, very lucky because we put it out there because we knew, you are absolutely right. I mean, something like this is long term. It's constant medical, but we were very, very blessed and fortunate because a lot of people did rally financially as
Right.
well. So that is a Bernice fund that goes into our Cuddles
Cuddles Fund.
specifically for these catastrophic type of issues. Animal Hospital of Oshkosh has been very generous with their time and their giving, but you're right, there's costs attached to that, and so we're very lucky that we were able to do that. But Cheryl said it before, not all of them are as sensational, but they can be costly.
Yeah. Well, look what happened in Milwaukee now. Now, you know, like you mentioned earlier, we're taping this on October 20th. Just in the last week, the shelter in Milwaukee had an outbreak of distemper. And 25 dogs died from this outbreak of distemper. And they had to put a hold on their adoptions. 25 died. It might be a little bit more than that now. I mean, there were still some that were pretty sick.
They were
so that death toll may have gone up. But, you know, things like that. Imagine the kind of financial impact that makes on a shelter's pocketbook.
And that's just it. It's, you just never know, Cheryl. I mean, it is an ebb and flow. It really does change from sometimes day to day.
Right.
It truly does. And so from a budgetary standpoint, and the other thing too is that there's a tremendous amount of labor attached to a humane society. We're there 7 days a week. There's no taking off. I mean, you don't get off for Christmas. I mean, you got to be there. You got to take care of the animals. I mean, it's just it's a very labor intense business, and particularly for us because
and very emotional. I mean, you know, we talk about we have 40 hours of manpower in the morning that clean. Those are people. They're not just sweeping the floor and washing the windows. They're cleaning the condos and touching, you know, handling the cats, having to move them around, feeding them, you know, scooping their litter boxes, taking the dogs for a walk. You know, it's not like I just come in here and clean the studio and that tree behind you doesn't care, you know, if I talk to it or not. Or what does it matter if that tree is missing tomorrow? These are all tangible living things that these employees get attached to.
Sure.
There's an emotional expense for everyone that works at the shelter. no matter what their job is, they're surrounded by these animals, and it's very difficult to walk through the halls and turn a blind eye and say, I don't see anybody.
Yeah.
And you get, it's very emotional.
Well, and there again, there's all these things that have to be done at the shelter. You know, if someone can't afford to donate money, they can't afford to maybe adopt, they can't afford to, you know, donate in-kind things like bleach or cat food or dog food or whatever, you can always go down and volunteer, even if it's an hour or two a week, you know, or a couple hours a month. I mean, you guys are like any other nonprofit organization.
You bet.
You're working on a shoestring budget with limited staff. Volunteers are critical to your survival.
They're absolutely necessary. Absolutely necessary.
You know, and there's always something to do. If you don't want to scoop a litter box, you can walk a dog, or you know,
absolutely.
maybe do filing in the office, or I mean, I don't know exactly what there are to do.
Sure.
You know, what chores
There's
there are to
different
do.
levels,
but there's
different
something
things,
for everybody to do, and no matter what their level of ability is.
Well,
Sure.
and you know, there's
So-
even things that people can do outside the shelter. You know, some people have a difficult time coming to the shelter, again, because of the emotional strain. Stuffing envelopes. Sometimes we have appeals that are going out. We need people to stuff envelopes, or people to run errands for us. Could you take a cat to the vet for us? Could you go and pick up the supplies that are at Festival Foods? Could you go and help pick up litter?
Sure, sure.
You know,
all
there's
those things.
many different things that people can do to help us. If we just know that they're there.
Okay. We're winding down our minutes here, but real quickly, you just had Shelter Trek this past summer. How did that go?
It was wonderful. It was wonderful.
We had a wonderful, wonderful turnout.
South Park was wonderful.
Why was it there this time of year, or this year, instead of at Menominee Park?
You know, Menominee Park is a beautiful park, but every year we struggle with shelters, and it's very windy in the area of Menominee Park. And somebody suggested, let's change it up. Let's really change it up. And South Park has that beautiful pavilion. They have lots of room.
Lots of shade.
Yeah.
Lots of shade. And that was another thing, is in the area where we always were for South Park, we didn't have much shade. And we looked at it from a financial aspect and from the usability of the park. And it just really was a great spot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was very nervous because we had been at Menominee Park for so many years, but it was wonderful having the pavilion. We could have our registration inside. We didn't have papers blowing all over. It was just really great.
Okay. Excellent. Well, we are down to our last minute here. Closing thoughts.
May I just quickly mention something?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
I think we need
we
to.
have a vigil that we will be holding at the shelter. That is October 29th. It's on a Saturday. It starts at 4:30. It's going to be in our memorial garden, our tribute garden. This is a vigil to honor all the abused animals in our community. There have been a rash of those, as you are well aware.
Yes.
And we feel that, and we want to open this up to the public, and we want to ask people to come. And it's a very simple ceremony. It's going to be from 4:30 to 5:30.
4:30 to 5:30, we'll have a representative there from the Oshkosh Police Department, and a representative there from the Christine Ann Center, and of course our representatives from the Oshkosh Area Humane Society. And we just want to draw awareness to animal violence.
Okay. So October 29th from 4:30 to 5:30 in the Memorial Gardens at the Animal Shelter. So, thanks very much for being here, guys. I just always love it. You know,
It's been an hour already.
it
for heaven's
has
sake.
been. It has been. So, and you know, thanks to you. And please, you know, if you can't do one thing for the shelter, find something else to do. There's always something to do. And that's going to do it for us. We will see you next time. Until then, take good care. Keep your eye on us. We've got our eye on Oshkosh.